1980.
KBLA Talk 1580 and the Empowerment Congress, pursuing justice through participatory democracy. Listen to KBLA Talk 1580, Saturday morning, January 13th, from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. for an exclusive forum featuring the candidates for LA County District Attorney. Join KBLA's Tavis Smiley as he helps navigate what promises to be a forum full of fire when the candidates trying to unseat current LA DA George Gascon come together on stage on the campus of the Charles R. Drew University of Medicine and Science. Again, it's the LA County District Attorney Forum, live, exclusively on KBLA Talk 1580, Saturday morning, January 13th, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. Helping to raise your civic IQ. We're KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
I'm Tavis Smiley. Glad to have you tuned into our program today. Second day back in the new year, and it's going to be a fascinating year on a lot of fronts, not the least of which is the political front. I'm pleased to be joined once again by the chair of the House January 6th Select Committee, Democratic Congressman out of Mississippi, Benny Thompson, to talk about a number of things, including Donald Trump's continuing assault on the rule of law in this country, as you all have been following these various stories. One state says he's on the ballot. One state says he's off the ballot. It's going to be a hot mess. It is a hot mess. And the Supreme Court's got to get involved in this at some point and likely make it a hotter mess. We shall see. But I'm always honored to have my homeboy from Mississippi on the program. Congressman Thompson, how are you today, sir? And Happy New Year to you.
Doing well. Happy New Year to you and all your great listeners.
Good to have you on the program once again. Let me just jump right in. How are you reading? And let me just back up. I say this all the time when I reference you, whether you're around or not, that the country owes you a great debt, because there's no way that all of these cases that Donald Trump is trying to wrangle himself out of right about now, and there are a number of them, as we all know, and we are concerned about these delays in these various cases and whether or not if there is no verdict, a guilty verdict in any of these cases before Election Day, what that means and what that portends. We'll get to that a little bit later in this conversation. But in so many of these cases, certainly the ones brought by Jack Smith, there's no way that the federal government would have the wherewithal to go after Donald Trump in the way that they are, were it not for a black man from Mississippi named Benny Thompson, who chaired that committee and brought all that evidence to the fore that's making these prosecutions possible. So I say once again, this country owes a great debt to one Benny Thompson out of Mississippi. That said, as you watch what's happening now and reflect on the work that you all did to make these cases possible, and you see him and his legal team and all the machinations they're working through our legal process right now, just a broad question we'll narrow in a second here. How are you just reading this moment, knowing what you did and the way his team is playing all these games and cases all across the country, as it were?
Well, thank you very much for that intro, Tavis. You know, we're coming up on the third year anniversary of January 6th. Mm-hmm. I look at the work of our committee. I look at the hundreds of witnesses that we talked to, the thousands of exhibits that we pulled together. And at the end of that work, as you know, I'm convinced that with the hearings that we shared with the public, with the final written report of over 850 pages and thousands of exhibits, it is clear in our mind that had we not done that work, Donald Trump would, and all the people associated with what happened on January 6th, as well as the election before that, would not be having their moments in court right now. Mm-hmm. The appetite, as you and I and a lot of other people have come to believe, the Justice Department was not going to make a move. Mm-hmm. It was halfway through the hearings that they started saying, why don't you give us this information? I said, no, this is this is our information. You have all the powers and purse strings of the government to do your own. And I think it was the public face that we put on what occurred that put the pressure on Merrick Garland and the Department of Justice that they're going to have to do something. And I'm convinced that the body of work that we uncovered, those electors who were duly electors, we found the certifications they signed and all of that documentation and made it available to the Department of Justice. They had not done any of that. So a lot of the work of our committee, which we found, which actually we had no authority to prosecute, we shared with the Justice Department at the end of our work. And they were upset with me as chair because I told them I'm not letting you butt in before we complete the charge that the House of Representatives and Speaker Pelosi gave us, which was to look at the facts and circumstances that brought about January 6th and make recommendations so that it never, ever happens again. And to that charge, that's what we did. Yeah. My goal was to land the plane. Yeah. You know? Yeah. And I think the work of our committee, as you said, has opened the eyes of a lot of people. On a daily basis, people say, I just didn't know it was that bad. Yeah. Your job retort is really worse than that.
Worse than that, yeah. I didn't mean to cut you off. It is worse than that. I'm watching my clock. Let me just tell you what I want to ask you when we come forward. And I don't want to get you started and have to cut you off based on this clock. So what I want to ask, given what you just said, because it is arresting for me all these months later to hear you say what you've just said, which is no surprise to me. I said it many times on this radio program and elsewhere, that had you not made your move, it's clear to me that the Justice Department was not going to move. And you said the same thing a moment ago. That in many respects, for whatever reason, I think it's because he's an institutionalist, as I've said before. Because he is an institutionalist, Merrick Garland was not going to do anything. But I want to ask you how we should read in this particular moment in American history, looking backwards, that our Justice Department was not going to move on this. I mean, you have to juxtapose that they were scared of their own shadow at DOJ. They were not going to move on this. You have to square that now in retrospect with all of the trouble that he is in this present moment. I mean, none of this would have happened had Benny Thompson and his committee not made the move that they made. Can you imagine that all of these cases that Donald Trump is facing now, most all of them, would not have ever happened if we were waiting on the Justice Department to move, because they were not going to move? And then furthermore, had they moved sooner, we might not be facing a clock. We're running out of time. You had to know that Donald Trump and his legal team were going to do everything they could to delay the game, to extend the play. You had to know that. So had DOJ moved sooner, as we talk about them being afraid to move at all, we might not be in this space right now. A lot to talk to Benny Thompson about. We'll get to that when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Interrogating and unpacking.
That's what we do around here.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
For all of us, this generation and the next, there is simply no place in our lives for litter. And yet, it's everywhere we look, and unfortunately, it does belong to all of us. So let's come together and create a litter-free, clean California once and for all. Remember to properly dispose of your trash and recycling. Secure truckloads with tarps to keep debris from flying out. Clean out your car when you're at the gas station. Take pride in your community by organizing a cleanup event or join a cleanup event near you. Zero litter is the goal. Join us at cleanca.com. That's cleanca.com. Let's do it together. Brought to you by Caltrans. cleanca.com.
Do you have both Medi-Cal and Medicare?
If so, the new LA Care plan called Medicare Plus can help you get the most out of your health plan for $0.
LA Care provides personalized service to Angelinos like us.
Plus, it gives us access to doctors and specialists across Los Angeles County.
For zero cost, we get access to full benefits.
From vision coverage,
in-home support services,
to prescription drug coverage,
and a quarterly over-the-counter allowance,
plus personal equipment,
meal programs,
a gym membership,
and so much more.
For more than 25 years,
LA Care has provided Angelinos with access to quality health care at an affordable cost.
For our families,
our seniors,
our community,
it's a plus.
It's a plus
for all of us.
Made fresh daily in the Mert Park,
Los Angeles, California.
You're listening to Tavis Smiley.
Congressman Benny Thompson, they say hindsight is 20/20 vision. I ask you, sir, how do we in this moment juxtapose, square these two things? We see all the drama, all the trouble that Donald Trump has gotten himself in legally in this moment. But how do we square that with the fact that none of this might not have happened? This might not have happened had DOJ just sat on their hands like they were doing, frankly.
Well, it's tough to just position it simply because I shudder to think, had it not been for the establishment and the work of this committee, what would have happened. You have to understand how Donald Trump works. On the business side, slash and burn and has his way. If you disagree, he takes you to court. Well, you know, there are guideposts when you're on the public side. You know, you just can't do what you want to do. There are some guideposts. Well, he tried to run this great government of ours like it was a Trump empire. And those guideposts tripped him up. Now, suffice it to say, not quite as fast as if he had been John Q. Public, but nonetheless, the guideposts are there. And so what we have now is he's doing just on the public side what he's done in his private side. He always takes you to court. If you're a contractor, you end up taking pennies on the dollar for whatever the contract was. Take it or leave it. On our side, he's trying to run out the clock. He's saying if I can get to next November as a Republican nominee, then that's my safe haven for the next 4 years. And then who knows what happens after that. And so all these appeals, all this that you are seeing and hearing, in my humble opinion, is a typical Donald Trump strategy of delay. And so look, he has the best of both worlds, though, Tavis. He's spending other folks' money. He's taking campaign contributions and other things and paying his lawyers for the violations of the law that he did. If you or I took somebody else's money and spent it as if it was ours, that would be an additional charge. But because I'm running for president, and so much of what I'm being charged with, I'm claiming kind of presidential immunity or what have you, I can get under that tent and spend hard-earned taxpayers' money who contributed to him, thinking it was based on getting him elected, and it's all about delay. So it's a typical Trump strategy. I don't expect any more because all of our work said where we are today, it would ultimately get to this point.
Yeah. So let me give you my read on this, and by this I mean this situation that we're facing right now, where there are multiple states who are deciding in real time whether he should be on the ballot or not on the ballot. Colorado said he shouldn't be, and California, where I sit right now, has allowed him on the ballot. Maine said he shouldn't be, and now he's going after Maine. So there are all kinds of states, as you know, 15 or 20, as I recall, that are in this situation where they have to make a decision whether he's on the ballot or not. Obviously, the Supreme Court will have some say on this in the days ahead. We'll come to the Supreme Court in just a second. That said, I think, this is my read, Congressman, and I'm anxious to get your take. My read is, I think it is a mistake. I think it's a mistake for these states to deny him ballot access. And here's one reason why. And there are many reasons, but the one reason I want to get to right quick, watching my time, is because it plays into this narrative that his sycophants, his followers, already believe, which is that the government is out to get him, and they're doing everything they can. You use the word delay, delay, delay. I would use the word deny, deny, deny. That's what they believe, that Donald Trump was being denied in every way that we can deny him ballot access, opportunity to run again, et cetera, et cetera. That may be a bunch of hogwash, but the point is that is their narrative. And I think that the more that states deny him or attempt to deny him ballot access, it plays into that narrative, and that cannot be good for our democracy. That's my read. I will shut up. What's your read on these states denying him ballot access?
Well, first of all, the Donald Trump modus operandi, it always play the victim.
Sure.
I'm trying to do this for you, and they are trying to deny you and me our rightful position. Mm-hmm. Therefore, as a victim, you have to come to my rescue like I'm coming to your rescue. Look at the guy who breaks into the Colorado courthouse and shoots the place up. Mm-hmm. Just because of this issue we're talking about right now. Mm-hmm. That's the level of what he's doing to a lot of his voters who believe he can do no wrong, that he's a victim, and somehow the system is against us. So it plays into the narrative.
Right.
But look, we're a nation of laws. We settle a lot of our debate in courts of law. Obviously, the Supreme Court might not be favorable, but that's where we ultimately take our disagreements. Mm-hmm. So it might be a good strategy. It might not be a good strategy, but it's there.
Yeah.
And we settle it. Win, lose, or draw, whatever they say, that they're the final arbiter in this situation. But nonetheless, I'm convinced at the end of the day, when the facts are what they are, it'll still show that whatever happened on January 6th is part and parcel Donald Trump's undoing.
Yep. Now, on that point, we totally agree. We agree on that latter point. And let me just maybe put a finer point on this so people don't think I'm being flippant about this or jumping too quickly to say that I think it's a mistaken strategy to deny him ballot access. My caveat is simply this. I think it's a mistake to deny him ballot access unless and until he is found guilty of the things that your committee brought to our attention. And I suspect, again, as these cases unfold, he will, in fact, be found guilty. That's my view. I just think that the presumption of innocence, fundamental fairness, and due process has to be available for all of us, not because I am a Donald Trump fan at all, but because I believe that it's a dangerous precedent to start denying somebody something before they've been found guilty, Congressman. That's my assessment.
Yeah, but you look now, this is the same guy who said, I'm going to change the outcome of the election. I'm going to appoint different electors.
True.
And I'm going to contest it. So, what's good for the goose ought to be good for the gander. And so the challenge for Donald Trump is you can't have it both ways, fella.
Yeah.
You want to change the rules when it fits you, but then when the rules come somewhere else, you're upset.
Nope.
So, but that's who he is. Chaos and confusion.
Nope. I take your
point. And always playing the victim.
Nope. I take your point. So you mentioned the Supreme Court. I mentioned the Supreme Court. It's clear that with all these states with different rules about whether he should be on the ballot or not on the ballot, the Supreme Court at some point is going to have to get involved in this. We'll come to the issue of presidential immunity that you raised earlier. We'll do that in just a second here. But what's your, I mean, you ain't got a crystal ball. I ain't got a crystal ball, but you're far brighter than I am. This is what you do every day. What's your gut tell you about what the Supreme Court's going to do when they finally get involved in this?
You know, you and I know the court. I know the court is probably going to be as broad in its view on this issue.
Yeah.
And ultimately, he might win a victory and get put on the ballot. You know, I might not like it, but, you know, I support democracy.
Yeah.
I support the branches of government because our founding fathers put it together and we survived this long. That doesn't mean I agree with everything that each does, but it is what it is. And I don't know anything any better. So for whatever happens from the Supreme Court, Bennett Thompson, and I hope everybody else will live with it. The consequences, we'll just have to get to that point and go with it. But I'm bothered by a guy that can have this many charges on him, can still be leading the ticket of a major political party. Bennett Thompson couldn't have 2 traffic tickets and be considered a viable candidate. You understand?
I got you.
And so all of a sudden, this person, for all intents and purposes, has been charged with every charge imaginable. A lot of it came out of the work of our committee. The fact that people who used to defend him have pled guilty. The fact that in Florida, Georgia, District of Columbia, and New York, he's in court and defending the actions of what he did while he was president of the United States. This is horrible.
Yeah.
Can you imagine you or I sitting in front of the TV and looking at him and telling our sons or daughters, say, look, that's the president of the United States. Say, if you just stay and get to be an adult, you can be just like him. Just like him. You know, there were presidents that I disagreed with, but I always had pride in how they conducted themselves in the office. Didn't agree with them all the time, but I could think of no reason that I could have any pride in Donald Trump's presidency.
Speaking of which, let me just ask you point blank. You raised it earlier, and I want to follow up on it. I'm watching my clock. Got about 4.5 minutes left with you, which I'm deeply grateful for, as I always am when you come on this program. But since you mentioned presidential immunity, Jack Smith's case, so much of it, as we already established, is based upon the fine work that your committee did. Do you have any reason to believe that even though he's making this legal argument, have you seen anything that suggests to you, given what he did, that he can argue presidential immunity?
Well, let me say this. He can argue, but I don't see a scintilla of evidence where it will be upheld by the courts. No one is above the law. You can't say to the Secretary of State, you need to change the outcome of the election because otherwise I'll lose. You can't say to the Speaker of a House of Representatives, you need to change how the election is counted because otherwise I'll lose, and say I'm doing it under the guise of being president of the United States. You know, you and I can't rob a bank, get caught, and then say, I'll give the money back. You will still be prosecuted. And so we got him on tape saying all these things. We have witnesses who have sworn under oath that he did certain things. We've got individuals who pled guilty based on his direction and his assistant's direction, and now he's going to plead immunity? Give me a break. As they say in Mississippi, I might have been born at night. It just wasn't last night.
There you go. Let me ask you. You used the phrase earlier. You said, Tavis, I shudder to think. I shudder to think. And I want to come back to that phrase that you shudder to think. Do you shudder to think about the future of our democracy if Donald Trump is, in fact, not just the presumptive nominee, he is that right now. If he's the actual nominee, and if Donald Trump, by some process, were able to win the election, and I say that because they didn't think he could beat Hillary, and we know how that worked out.
Right.
So if Donald Trump pulls this off, gets the nomination, and by some process were elected once again president of these United States, what would that say to you, Benny Thompson, about the state of, in real time, and the future of this thing called democracy?
It say we are in serious trouble. If a person tells you that they want to be a dictator for a day, if a person tells you all of the government employees, I'm going to wipe out the civil service requirement and protections that they've enjoyed as government employees, if he tells you that Vladimir Putin is somebody who I admire and that I send love letters to Kim Jong-il, we're in trouble. Mm-hmm. And if that's the person you want to lead your country, but more important is he says that what you saw on January 6th really wasn't what you saw on January 6th. Mm-hmm. Said, in other words, who you going to believe, me or your lying eyes? Mm-hmm. And so, Tavis, I can't think of a more darker future for this country than Donald Trump being reelected president or given another chance to do what he didn't do when he was president before.
Yeah. My final question here with 45 seconds to go. If he can run out the clock, as you and I discussed earlier, and proceed toward the nomination, proceed toward re-election, God forbid, if he could pull that off into the future, how mad are you going to be at DOJ that they didn't start this process sooner?
Well, it just tells me that the greatest law enforcement agency that we've ever known, called the United States Department of Justice, failed the citizens of this country because it did not pursue the prosecution of Donald Trump earlier.
Yeah, he's an icon in Mississippi and an icon on Capitol Hill these days, given his brilliant stewardship of the January 6th House Select Committee. I close where I began. These cases you see against him right now would not be moving forward, even though slowly. It wouldn't be moving forward at all had it not been for the work of his fine committee. Congressman Thompson, I appreciate you, sir. Thank you for coming on the program once again. All the best to you this year, sir.
All right. Thanks. Good talking to you, homeboy.
Good to have you on. Thank you. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
For all the freedom-loving folk, this is Tavis Smiley.
I feel like freedom.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden is ramping up his 2024 re-election campaign. The president will deliver a speech in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Saturday to mark 3 years since a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. On Monday, Biden will visit Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, where 9 people were killed in a mass shooting by a white supremacist in 2015. In Maryland, leadership is changing at the top of the Bowie Police Department. Dwayne Preston was sworn in as police chief Tuesday. Preston, who is African American, has been with the department since 2012 and also spent time with the Prince George's County Police Department. Bowie is home to one of Maryland's 4 HBCUs. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
Nearly 3,000 teen drivers die in car crashes each year. Tire Rack Street Survival is designed to save lives. The one-day hands-on driving school gives teens experience in car control through exercises that include emergency braking and skid recovery. Find a class near you at TireRack.com/survive.
Right now, there are young people across the world facing a tough choice. Continue their dream of education or drop out to help their family put food on the table. You can help change their future in a single moment. See how far your support can go at unbound.org.
Is this the time? This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
The Lakers and Clippers are back in action tonight. The Lakers are at home against the Miami Heat. 7 p.m. tip-off on ESPN. The Lakers have some work to do. They've lost 2 straight and are 3-8 since winning the in-season tournament. The Clippers are in Phoenix tonight. They've won 3 straight and have the 4th best record in the Western Conference. 6 p.m. tip-off in Phoenix on Valley Sports. The NFL fined Carolina Panthers owner David Tepper $300,000 for throwing a drink at fans during Sunday's game at Jacksonville. Tepper tossed his drink late in the 4th quarter from his open-air luxury suite while his team was losing 26-0. Tepper has a net worth of $20.6 billion. The fine won't have much of an impact on his bank account, but he got a strong message from the NFL and some negative PR. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson. More news, opinions, and conversation when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
This is KBLA Talk 1580. Talk radio. That's music to your ears. We're unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580.
Mom's early Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard to take.
And when I left the oven on, we decided together that it was time to see a doctor and make a plan.
Early detection gave us more time to seek out information and support as a family.
If you or your family are noticing changes, it could be Alzheimer's. Talk about seeing a doctor together. For more information, visit alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
We've got a lot to talk about.
Hi, I'm Ray Richardson, your sports connection here at KBLA Talk 1580. Join me and my co-host Neil Scarborough every Saturday night at 7 for Out of Bounds, the show that brings some flavor to the world of sports for 60 minutes. We take you beyond the scores and press conferences. We give you our point of view, the way black folks see what's going down. You can join the conversation and give us your analysis at 1-800-920-1580. Out of Bounds every Saturday night at 7 on KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
Unapologetically progressive. KBLA Talk 1580. We've got your black.
You like your style, though.
KBLA Talk 1580 is the exclusive media sponsor of this light of ours, activist photographers of the Civil Rights Movement. A dynamic new exhibition on view now at the Skirball Cultural Center in Los Angeles. This light of ours showcases more than 150 photos taken by movement insiders from diverse backgrounds that reveal the vital work undertaken by a broad coalition of organizers and everyday people whose collective action changed America. This light of ours is one of 3 temporary exhibitions currently on view at the Skirball, which together explore issues related to civil rights, immigration, and pluralism. Tickets and more information for all 3 exhibitions are available at skirball.org. That's skirball.org. SKIRBALL.org.
Let's get back to more of this rich dialogue with Tavis Smiley.
Just had a rich dialogue with Benny Thompson, chair of the January 6th House Select Committee. Let's keep talking politics now with Jonathan Martin, author and senior political reporter at Politico. Jonathan, Happy New Year, my friend. It's been a long time. How are you, sir?
It has, Tavis. Happy New Year to you.
Good to hear your voice. Good to hear your voice, man.
Yes,
let me just jump right in. I want to pick up on what Benny Thompson and I were just talking about, then we'll move through some other things. We were just talking about the mess that is this 2024 presidential race. Of course, that's a big mess. But this notion that state after state is having their say on whether he should be or should not be on the ballot, he, of course, being Donald Trump, at some point, the Supreme Court's got to get involved in this. Benny Thompson, nor I, neither he nor I are holding our breath on what that's going to look like. But what's your read about the role that the court will have to play and when they will have to play it as these states are coming up with decisions all over the map on this question?
Well, I think it is inevitable. I think Congressman Thompson is right that the court is going to weigh in here. We're just not going to have a patchwork in this country where some states are going to have the likely Republican nominee on the ballot and some states aren't. I mean, I think it's a matter of when, not if, before the Supreme Court weighs in here. I don't cover the court, but my guess is that they would overrule these states that have thrown Trump off the ballot. I don't know if it'd be unanimous, but I think that's where this is going. And I think it's a matter of, like I said, when, not if.
Yeah. There's some stories I want to get to and make the most of our time here. Let me just go in no particular order with this first. I feel like I'm looking at a Jeopardy board with political topics. We'll start with this for 500. So the Speaker of the House, the stuff you do cover, of course. Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Today, likely right about now as I'm talking, I'm not sure. But he, the Speaker of the House, and 60 of his Republican cohorts are at the U.S.-Mexico border today. And they're trying to make a statement, and they want to squeeze Democrats. What are they squeezing them for, and what statements are they making? I mean, we've been used to these buses with these migrants going up north. We've been seeing that crazy story for months now. But now the Speaker and Republicans are literally at the U.S.-Mexico border today. What's the point of all that?
I think that this is sort of the first posturing in the new year from the House Republicans, who are trying to get the best possible border deal that they can get out of Congress to President Biden's desk. I mean, look, there's almost certainly going to be some kind of an agreement that gets money to the Ukrainians and the Israelis, but it's not coming out of the Congress until there's also some language in there, toughening up the border. That's what the congressional Republicans want, especially in the House, Tavis. I think that this is their effort, led by the Speaker, to sort of draw attention to the challenges on the border to strengthen their negotiating hand back in D.C.
Mm-hmm. Is there any chance, in your mind, Jonathan, that we will see any sort of meaningful, and I guess it depends on how one defines meaningful, but meaningful immigration reform in short order?
I don't think so. I think that the challenges on the border politically strengthen the Republicans' hand to do a kind of enforcement and only enforcement approach. And I think Biden politically is now in a place where, he's suffering on the issue and probably is going to agree to whatever compromise that gets to his desk that does toughen the border. I think the idea of doing a big bargain where you strengthen enforcement in exchange for legalizing, some group of migrants, whether it's the Dreamers or whether it's a broader cohort, I have a hard time seeing that under these conditions.
So if the Republicans have their way and they're successful at forcing the president's hand to do something on immigration that he really doesn't want to do, he'll hold his nose and do it because he has no choice if he wants money for the other things that matter to him, make that Ukraine, Israel, et cetera, et cetera. He holds his nose, he signs it, and then the question becomes the policies on the books, but how does that play politically in the election cycle? So my question is, If the Republicans do that, Biden is forced to go along with it. Who wins politically when it comes to the Latino vote?
Well, I mean, that's the great question in the aftermath of Biden signing whatever bill eventually lands on his desk is, does Biden sort of lower the temperature on the immigration issue politically for himself and have the capacity to say, look, we actually are addressing this. I got X number of Republican votes, and we're toughening the border. Does that get him any political credit? And is that political credit that he gets outweighed by the backlash that he draws from his own core voters who say, you didn't do anything but the enforcement side. You didn't get any kind of legal status for folks who are already in the country, and so all you're doing is stick and there's no carrot. And so now we're not going to help you out. You know, we're going to stay at home. We're not going to volunteer. I mean, that, Tavis, is the great question. Is there more benefit than backlash for Biden on signing this deal?
That leads me straight into this, Jonathan Martin, and that is, again, you cover these issues every day. And this is a broad question, so paint the way you want to paint here. You got a canvas here.
Sure.
But what fissures are you seeing right now as we start out 2024, headed toward November? What fissures are you seeing within the Democratic Party?
Sure. Look, I think that the most obvious one, and I think potentially the most politically perilous one for Biden, Tavis, is the Middle East. Look, I think historically the Democratic Party has been very closely aligned with Israel, has been a calling card for Democratic politicians for generations. And I think that is really being called into question now. And you see the generational divide in the party, with sort of older Democrats, Biden being the most obvious one, but also people like Schumer and Pelosi, who are much more pro-Israel, younger Democrats who are more skeptical of Israel's intentions, certainly under the Netanyahu government. And I think that, you know, if Biden is not able to get some kind of resolution in the Middle East before the election, it poses an enormous threat to him, not because younger Democrats are suddenly going to put on a red hat and be for Trump, but because they're going to stay home, or they'll find a third party, whether it's Cornel West or Jill Stein or Bobby Kennedy.
When we come forward, watching my clock here, don't want to be unfair to you and give you 20 seconds to answer this. I want to ask the flip side of that. What fissures are you seeing within the GOP? And I'm saying this somewhat tongue-in-cheek because I'm not sure there are any fissures there. And what I mean by that is that everybody seems to be lock, stock, and barrel in line with Trump. Of course, I know that's not the case. Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, have I just read, qualified for this next debate. So there are two of them at least still standing. Chris Christie is still trying to do his thing on the edges. But I wonder what the fissures are that you see inside the Republican Party. And then I want to ask you, when we come forward, about Bob Menendez. We saw the story weeks ago, late last year. Democratic senator out of New Jersey, been in trouble before, got himself in trouble again with doing stuff, they say, for Egypt. Now they filed new charges yesterday and indict him on doing stuff for Qatar. And yet Democrats have not backed away from Bob Menendez. I ain't stuck on stupid. They got a narrow majority in the Senate. But can the Democrats continue to stand by and not demand that Menendez step aside? Does that hurt them in the long run, come election season, when Republicans start running commercials everywhere about Democrats standing by criminals in office? You see the point. Jonathan Martin, right now on Tavis Smiley.
From Leimert Park with love, this is Tavis Smiley.
What is dedication?
My biggest fear in the middle of my addiction was that my kids wouldn't have a father. And I started thinking, you know what? This isn't my story. I definitely had to become a better man to be a better father. It's important to me that my kids are empowered and truly believe that if they can think it, they can do it.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Joey from Vermont, a farmer trying to get through the winter. Adriana from South Carolina, a single mother living paycheck to paycheck. Liam from Ohio, an injured father struggling to provide for his family. Hi, I'm Shanola Hampton, and I support the Feeding America network of food banks because they help provide over 6 billion meals to people in need each year. Learn more at feedingamerica.org.
Hey, Dad, how do airplanes fly? What's in this box? Is this tree good for climbing? How are babies made? What does this thing do?
Kids are curious about everything, including guns. Talking to them about gun safety in your home is a good first step, but you can do more. Always keep your guns locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
I have a dream. On Friday, January 12th, as we head into Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. annual holiday weekend, KBLA Talk 1580 will announce a historic climate justice campaign aimed at California communities of color. KBLA Talk 1580 is joined in this historic effort by both public and private partners including LADWP, Metro, Caltrans, Cal and Dow, the Sierra Club, and many other partners. There's a clear connection between Dr. King's moral conscience on the notion of reverence for all human life and the future of our world house. This year, on the MLK holiday weekend, KBLA assigns itself the task of elevating the climate conversation by amplifying the voices of those who are most impacted by the climate catastrophes we are witnessing in real time. Stay tuned for more details. At KBLA Talk 1580, Climate is King.
With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood.
Granddad, what's good?
Hey there, got us a quarter pounder with cheese and McNuggets.
Wow, haven't had our special McDonald's order in a minute.
Heard your little tic-tac-toe dance didn't get no likes.
Oh man, is Mom telling everybody?
You know she is.
There's a deal for every favorite grandson at McDonald's. Right now, get one favorite like a quarter pounder with cheese or 10-piece chicken McNuggets and get another for just $1. Price and participation may vary. Cannot be combined with any other offer. Valid for item of equal or lesser value.
Sounds different, huh? This is Tavis Smiley.
All right, Jonathan, we talked about the fissures on the Democratic Party. Before I move to the fissures on the other side, let me just ask a quick question about Democrats. How long can they stand by Bob Menendez before they get slapped with the fact that you're standing by criminals?
Right. Well, let me take the Menendez question first, and then I'll sort of pivot to the Republican fissures. I mean, look, I think the Menendez issue can be contained here if he eventually resigns. Now, typically, politicians who are facing corruption charges will oftentimes resign because they can get a better plea deal with prosecutors if they resign their seat. That's sort of often a bargaining chip that prosecutors use. So I think that helps them. If he doesn't go away, if he tries to run for re-election, which he's threatening to, I think it's more of a mess, Tavis, for Democrats that could last much of this year. On the broader issue of the Republican Party, there's two ways to look at it. Look, like one is, as you pointed out, there's not a lot of fissures because they're mostly bowing to Trump now as sort of their likely third consecutive nominee here in a row, which is extraordinary if you step back and think about it. And he certainly is his party. If you think about it differently, they're cleaved by Trump. Look, Trump has reshaped the Republican Party, has chased out a good number of people, made them either Democrats or independents, and those who have stayed in that don't like him are looking at the possibility of not voting for their party's nominee. Once again, there are people, I'll throw you a name, George W. Bush, for example, a former president, who are about to go a decade, Tavis, not having voted for the nominee of their party for president. So I think it depends how you look at it with Republicans and Trump. Those who have stayed are obviously certainly for him, and they bow. But he's also fractured the party significantly. Right? Part of the reason why Biden's president today is because Trump chased out so many people from the old party.
Yep. You made the point. It's a powerful point, and we don't spend enough time talking about it. But how do you read that he is at the moment the presumptive nominee of his party? He will likely be the nominee later this summer. But how do you read that if he pulls this off, he will have been the Republican nominee for 3 consecutive election cycles?
It's extraordinary, and it's such a departure from what we're used to in this country. And I think that's why it's so profoundly shocking, because this is supposed to happen in other countries, right, where democratically elected leaders try to stay in power, they change the rules, they try to come back to power after being exiled. We just haven't had it in this country, right? And I think that's why it's so jarring to have somebody effectively take over a party and then try to keep their grip on it despite having lost an election and trying to overturn the results of the election, paying no penalty for that within the party itself, and seemingly poised to cruise to the nomination of that party. Once again, I think it tells you a lot about his grip on power. It tells you a lot about how malleable the Republican Party is. And I think, frankly, it tells you a lot about the American voter and the fact that we're not so different in this country from those other countries that we thought this kind of thing happened.
Yeah, that's a scary thought right there. That latter point is a scary thought, but I digress. When we come forward in our remaining moments with Jonathan Martin, we'll close with him where we began today's program, and we ain't done yet. We got an hour to go, but I want to go back to the beginning of today's show and get Jonathan's take on the victory lap that Republicans are taking, given what they've done to the president of Harvard and the president of UPenn. We'll talk about that with Jonathan Martin when we come forward on Tavis Smiley.
Unapologetically progressive, unapologetically black. You're tapped into Tavis Smiley.
If you're like me, 60 and retired, making ends meet, especially here at the supermarket and drugstore, is tough. I'm so blessed to have found benefitscheckup.org. It's a free and confidential website from the National Council on Aging that connected me to $1,200 a year in programs that help pay for food, medicine, utilities, and more. Maybe it can help you. benefitscheckup.org.
My daughter was diagnosed with a rare malignant rhabdoid tumor on the spine. They sent her straight to St. Jude. My hope was gone. But when you get there, everyone's like, hey, we're not going to give up. And when you see other people not giving up on your child, that makes all the difference in the world. When I found out I didn't have to pay, I was just grateful. They saved my baby's life.
Finding cures, saving children. Learn more at stjude.org.
KBLA Talk 1580. We've got a lot to talk about.
KBLA Talk 1580, connecting you with services and solutions. Stay Housed LA has the resources you need to know your rights and the legal support to back them up. The COVID-19 pandemic has cost people their jobs and livelihoods. This has left an estimated 1/3 of households not being able to make rent and facing losing their homes. This is a fear no one in our community should have to face. You have rights, though, and Stay Housed LA is here to help. Stay Housed LA is a partnership between the County of Los Angeles, the City of Los Angeles, and local community and legal service providers. Together, they provide tenants with the information and support needed to exercise their rights so they can remain safely in their homes. Find out more about your rights by participating in a virtual tenant workshop. Get the legal assistance you need. Find additional resources in Los Angeles County and the City of Los Angeles. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA County for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. Stay connected to Stay Housed LA for updates. This and more at stayhousedla.org. That's stayhousedla.org. Or call their hotline at 213-694-0040. We've got your black with a community call to action from KBLA Talk 1580.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Ready to re-examine your assumptions and expand your inventory of ideas? More of Tavis Smiley coming your way right now.
More of Jonathan Martin of Politico coming your way right now with the 3 minutes I have left in this hour. So, Jonathan, we started our program today talking about the big news, of course. Claudine Gay resigns at Harvard. I just want to probe you on this particular slice of that story. I tell you stuff that you already know. This story, this narrative was driven by the New York Post, as you know, owned by Rupert Murdoch. This story was driven by Miss Stefanik out of New York, who was asking those tough questions during that hearing.
Right.
And so the GOP is taking a victory lap here, and this concerns a lot of people, certainly African Americans, because they see this as just another assault, another attack on any sort of black agency or black leadership, black advancement. Say nothing of the book ban and all the other stuff that we have to deal with from time to time. Politically, how are you reading the GOP, again, doing a victory lap on this issue?
Well, look, I think that you have to take these things individually. I think for Elise Stefanik, certainly this is a sort of crowning achievement for her that she wants to use this to elevate her stature in Congress and potentially even get on Trump's ticket here if she can this year. And I think she wants to show that she's a fighter, a scrapper. Look, I think the broader issue here for the right is Democrats, Tavis, are unified in opposition to Trump. Mm-hmm. There's not a similar person that unifies the right. But what does unify the right is this contempt for what they see as the real or perceived excesses of the left, right? Mm-hmm. That is the only unifying element left, because Trump has divided the party in a way that we discussed a minute ago. And so I think that this, for the right, is something that they could rally around. Here's, they see liberal hypocrisy, and so they say, this is something that unifies us. This is something that we can get. It's a scalp. Everybody in our coalition, the Trump haters and the Trump lovers, love this. And so for them, it's something that they can rally to. And if we're being totally honest, it lets them put off for another day that matter of the fact that Trump is the leader of the party and is about to be the nominee for a third straight cycle. Mm-hmm. Here's something that we can talk about that they all sort of agree on, that is not Donald Trump. And I think that's why you see so much energy around this with that.
Finally here, I think I heard you correctly. It is your view, yes or no, that Ms. Stefanik has now squarely put herself on Donald Trump's short list for VP?
List. I don't know if it's short, Tavis.
Yeah.
Let's say list.
Fair enough. Yeah, we'll see. Yeah, I don't know how long the list can be, because he got a lot of folk he doesn't like, and so I don't know. I mean, at one point I thought Nikki Haley may be on the list, and she still may be, for all I know. But he is very unforgiving, as you know, about things said about him, even if it makes sense for her to be the running mate. We shall see. Who knows? And
after Pence, his criteria is going to be loyalty, because he does not want to have a repeat of what happened on January 6, 2021, where in his hour of need, so.
I totally agree, and that's why I think Nikki Haley ain't on the list no more, but I digress on that point for now. Jonathan Martin, author and senior political reporter at Politico. Jonathan, thanks for coming on. We'll do it again, my friend. All the best to you.
Look forward to it. Thanks, Tavis. Happy New Year.
Thank you. Happy New Year. More of Tavis Smiley when we come forward.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Now here's the latest from the Black Information Network. President Biden is ramping up his 2024 re-election campaign. The president will deliver a speech in Valley Forge, Pennsylvania, Saturday to mark 3 years since a pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. On Monday, Biden will visit Mother Emanuel African Methodist Episcopal Church in Charleston, South Carolina, where 9 people were killed in a mass shooting by a white supremacist HBCUs.